two of you.
Really guilty.
How long have you been surfing at this break at Saunton?
Well, I reckon it must be 50 plus years, because I actually started in 1967 and quite soon after that I came here, so it must be 50 plus years. It had a magnetic draw to come back to it because it had everything I needed. Initially it didn't suit me because I'm what's called a goofy foot surfer, which is right foot forward, and the predominant wave here at Saunton is a right-hander, so I ride with my back to the wave. But the wave is so nice and predictable. In fact, I would say it's right up there as one of the world's best longboard waves on its day. It peels at the right speed, which means that you can stay in front of the breaking water, the white water, cut back into the white water, and then go again along these long walls of pure wave. And I reckon you could measure a 250-yard ride. And okay, a lot of people say, well, long rides aren't everything, but it's a really satisfying wave to ride, and it's definitely something special.
What is nice about a long ride? Because you're longboarding, so what is so nice about that long ride?
Well, I think everybody's got their sort of quiver of moves. You know, you want to drop in, do a solid bottom turn, climb back up to the top of the wave, maybe gain some board speed because you can see the white waters crumbling in front of you. You get around the white water and you're back on an open face. Then you can use another one of your moves. You can cut back all the way around back to the white water and then go away from that again back onto the face. If you've got the skills, you can hang 5, hang 10, you know, toes are over the nose of the board, and the wave lets you do that. And that's the clever thing about Saunton. Only you can mess it up. The wave pretty much is there for you all the time. The sandbar underneath that wave almost nurses the swell. So amongst all the chop and mess, there's still a really good quality wave to be ridden. You come on to it in a minute. There's a whole beach of waves there, but in certain places it's extra special. There used to be a feature on the rocks and the cliff called the cave, and guess what? There was a great big cave there. Sadly, I think in the last 3 years it collapsed, and luckily nobody got caught in it. In fact, surfers used to live in it back in the 60s and literally climb out of the cave and go surfing. So it's definitely got some history. But more importantly, underneath the sand, right where the cave was, and that's usually about half tide, the rocks under the sand create a slight bulge, and that's what makes the wave so special and make it peel to the right. Long rides to the right, short waves or rides back towards the rocks if it was a left. But yeah, it's one hell of a good wave. There was no forecasting of surf, you know, there was no way of knowing. We try to read that. We go into a newsagent's and pick up a Daily Telegraph, not to read it, but to look at the pressure chart at the back in the weather section and try and work out what the wind was doing and where there'd be a wave. But so yeah, it wasn't mass then, it was minimal, the number of surfers coming here.
Was there many of the surfers coming here, working here also?
Yeah, it attracted Australians, believe it or not. They would come and do their trip to come and see us here in Pommyland, and the easy job for them to do was to be a lifeguard on the beach, and I was lucky enough to work with some of them at Croyd. So they added an extra dimension to the surfing because they were miles ahead of us, and we could pick up on what they were doing and learn from them. And they definitely settled, some of them, shaping surfboards and staying for a long time.
Okay, so in all your years of surfing here, you don't have to name the species, but do you see a lot of species out there? Anything, any kind?
Yeah, you see, I suppose the most dramatic one to see is porpoises and dolphins, and they often swim between the rocks and out across the bay and then back towards the rocks, usually where there's some fish. And sometimes I've seen a mother and a small one going together, and that just hits you in the heart, hits you in the soul, because that is so back to nature. You couldn't have it any better than that. There's always some birds, there's always something going on. You sometimes see the sea boil with fish when bass are chasing the whitebait up to the surface. So if you keep your eyes open, there's a lot going on. If you look up above the cliffs, you may see a hawk hovering. Yeah, it's pretty good on nature.
Yeah, so surfing is often seen as a bit of an individual's thing.
It's 100% individual, and surfers are probably the most selfish people around, because all they think about is themselves and going surfing, and leave a trail of disaster behind them often. But yeah, there's no team in surfing really.
And so it's quite hard to add up all those different individuals and say, oh, they're en masse and they should all have a voice. You'd think if there was an organisation of some sort, then it, you know, often sports teams can have a body, a governing body, and I mean there is a competitive surf scene, but
yeah,
they have a body. Surfing England exists.
Yeah, I mean I used to surf all the time, you know, and do contests, but you were just there for the contest and nothing else really. You were just being your own selfish self. And there's Surfers Against Sewage is probably the most organised people out there, and they stick to their task of trying to embarrass all the water companies and councils that discharge sewer. But even they seem to be fighting a losing battle, because everybody's getting away with stuff now. The sea just isn't as clean anymore. So yeah, organisations are good, but they don't seem to be able to function enough to control what's going on anymore. I think people now, these big companies, just get away with it by paying the fines. They think it's a cheap way out, and I don't think we or the governments have wised up to that. It's cheaper to pay the fine than fix the problem. And if I'm saying that, surely the people in the meeting rooms and the committee rooms and who are paying these people, they must know that, because that's what they do. The fine is cheaper than... Yes, right. We're recording, Ray. Nice to see you. Good morning.
Do you think the balance of surfing makes people happy in themselves?
For me, it's 50% physical and 50% mental, because you're just going to leave so many things on the beach. When you paddle out or walk out into the waves, you've got to fully concentrate on the waves, because you'll get your board in your face or you'll get turned over by the wave. You're looking to see what's happening. You drop all those stupid thoughts that you had on the beach, and that's one of the best things about it. And you always come out of the sea feeling better than when you went in. There's no doubt about that. So when Whitecross first proposed their cable route from their offshore wind farm through the car park and the other areas of issue, I don't feel they really consulted the surfers. They had a kind of open day in the village hall, but most of their representatives were ill-informed and with little knowledge, so that didn't really work. The local council meetings, they wouldn't attend, so they didn't really pick up the vibe. So considering I'm here a lot of the time and I live here, I have had no contact from Whitecross. So they're a bit of a mystery organisation, and seem shy to talk to anybody.
What would be the worst case scenario for Saunton in any scenario, even if it wasn't about this one cable? What would be the worst thing to happen to this beach?
I think it's doing something to it that can't be repaired, and I think that's where Whitecross have a major flaw, because for everything you talk to them about which they might cause a problem with, they've got what I call a sticking plast solution. So right behind us here, they're doing work to protect the sand dunes, and it says that's exactly what it's doing. Ironically, that's where Whitecross are going to put the cable through. So you can't go to the garden centre and buy a new sand dune with some marron grass on it. And likewise, when you start to look at the nature that's going to be affected through the marsh, through the burrows, through the estuary over by the Tor, you can't go to Pets at Home and buy a new otter. You know, that would be the sort of thing that Whitecross would say. Their solutions are wafer thin, but they just keep coming up with every reason that you say you're doing a wrong thing here. They go, no, it'll be fine, we'll fix it with one of our wonder solutions. And who on earth is going to police all that? I have no idea. Saunton Beach and this whole area, it's been here millions of years basically, developing, maybe not as it is now, and then it's sort of shaped its way now in time, and it just shouldn't be messed about with, because history shows you if you interfere with sand dune coastlines and stuff like that, they never ever recover, and they often appear as a new version which was nothing like the original. And if there's nothing wrong with the original, then don't mess with it when there are alternatives.